E. Racist. Oh, what's happening? Late today. Yes, I know I'm late. But it's because the kids aren't at school. And when the kids aren't at school, I hang out with them in the mornings. But now, my kids are growing up. And they want to go hang out at their friend's house. But I hate it. I fucking hate it. I can not express to you how much you should not have kids. And not because like you hate your kids or anything like, because you love them so much. Like I just can't stand, like I'm it is my goal to lose my best friends. Right? Like these little amazing creatures that I want to nurture and encourage to not want to hang out with me anymore and go do their own thing. It's such a cruel joke. Such a just a horrible fucking joke. I'd rather hang out with them than anybody. At least for a little while. And then, you just worry about them. Like, not knowing where they are, what they're doing. I mean, you know basically where they are, but you don't know. My oldest is 14. This is when you start going down roads you maybe shouldn't. And no matter what I say, no matter what I do, no matter what any of it, they're going to do what they want to do, regardless of what's said. So then I guess you just have to punish them accordingly. Fuck, I don't know. I mean, how do I do that? How do I always say this. How do I raise two boys to be better than me? This is what I was capable of raising. This is what I was capable of coming up with. I'm doing swell. I love when what was a troll comes in the next day like, hey brother, how's it going? Whatever it takes. I told you, I'll swing lots of you guys if you let me. If you just pay attention to what's being said and then what's happening in the real world. It's all right there. Fuck, man. Fuck. So crazy. Like I think about it all way too much. And I think about it all from the perspective of, we could easily be the next Palestinians. We could easily be the next, just anything, the next China. Like, China's so fucked up. The people there are so like, again, the whole rewashing of food, the I forgot what it's called, but the oil skimming, like all of it, it's just nuts how it is in the world and how we don't realize like how good we have it here in the States. At least to some degree, because it's all just a mistake away. I mean, it's not just a bad decision. Yeah, you could make a bad decision and screw things up for yourself, but it's also a mistake. Let some sort of mistake in the paperwork happen, and and you lose your shit. I mean, it's all just, it's really scary. Life is so scary. and I'm really into old world and what happened. Like trying to put it all together, just that's where the TV show thing comes in, and this is the part I don't like doing, because obviously I'm sort of alone on this one. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of other people that think something similar, but I'm answering for why there was a reset. We talk about the resets, and then so many people go in such crazy directions. Like so many people go into like it's time traveling and it's demons and it's all these crazy things that have nothing to do with our reality. But the idea of the ultimate reality TV show, a structure that we build that the things inside don't know it. Like we aren't far from that. There's no supernatural anything that comes along with that. And so to think that our reality is just that. And every time we sort of figure things out, or we get to a point where the show is boring, then they just reset it. I mean, it's such a weird thing because it's like there are the people that believe something else is going on, and then there's the average person who just doesn't even. It's like you accept the idea of we don't know how they built the pyramids. We don't know how they built castles and churches and all that shit. We just don't know. And it was obviously these donkey people who were able to build skyscrapers and all these other things. Like, it really is irritating because it's, there's a whole vast majority of people out there that accept the timeline we're given, even though they have nothing but evidence to the contrary. That's so, there's not even evidence to the narrative we're given. When they tell us that, that when you look up this video on YouTube, it's the what happened to all the dead bodies after the great battles. That video starts by telling you there's a quote, a definite gap in the history of in the memory, a definite gap in the memory of history when it comes to this one particular issue. You'd think it'd be as easy as just going to the battle sites and digging up, but for some reason it just doesn't work that way. When they tell us that 6 million were killed in the blah blah, well, that doesn't stand up to scrutiny. There's no evidence for it. And then there are these other narratives that we just don't even talk about. Stalin and the Bolshevik Jays, Lenin and Marx, who killed, Bolshevism. They killed Christians, 25 million Christians they're said to have killed. Leopold, out of Belgium, said to have killed 50 million Africans. And then Mao was said to have killed 100 million of his own people. Where are all these people? I think about this one a lot. Like, me being what I believe to be the descendants of Project Paperclip. If you go looking around, you'll see there are there's like a community in Pennsylvania or something like that where a guy believes a lot of paperclippers were stationed or whatever. But for the most part, you don't hear about it. Just like you don't hear about there's nobody that was involved in the flight TWA 800. This happened in 97, I believe. And it was a thing where you're gonna have to give me a minute on this one. Here, this is what we're gonna talk about. So I'm gonna make my kid angry, but that happens. Sorry, Daniel.
I'm in the middle of something.
Okay, well, hurry it up. I want to look up TWA Flight 800. But it's basically it's like Oklahoma City, right? Even if I say, hey, when was Oklahoma City? The vast majority of you won't say April 19th, 1995. You have no idea when it was. And Oklahoma City was the largest domestic terrorist attack in the United States prior to 9/11. It's still the largest in-house terrorist attack. But it was the largest terrorist attack in the United States prior to 9/11. And it's still the largest homegrown domestic terror attack or something like that. I can't remember how it's all worded. And most of us don't know about it. And the crazy part is, there were like 40 babies killed in that whole thing. There were, hundreds of people killed in that thing. There was a whole, John Doe number 2. There was just a whole narrative created around Oklahoma City that went on for months. Like, if you're not old enough, you don't remember, obviously. But this went on for months and months. And then all of a sudden, Janet Reno comes out and says, well, there is no John Doe number 2. It's just a mistake. Go back to your lives. And everybody was like, oh, okay, cool. We'll go back to our lives then. And it's like, where are all of the people from, the relatives? Where's the Guy Williams that is like a cousin or a nephew or, brother, sister, whatever, another kid, of all the people that were killed in Oklahoma City, or TWA Flight 800, or Waco, or any of these narratives that have been given to us. We don't ever talk about it. You done yet?
Almost done. Just gotta kill one more guy.
Kill him. And I don't you think that's strange? Don't you think it's strange? Especially, like, if you've ever seen a movie called A Noble Lie. If you haven't seen it, you should. If you can find it. It's pretty easy to find, actually, I believe. But there's a movie called A Noble Lie. A Noble Lie. And it's a really, really well done documentary on Oklahoma City. And it's just like everything else. It's like where you get the official narrative that tells you, okay, this is what it is, think this way, and don't think anything otherwise. Compared to something like A Noble Lie that says, hey, did you know that this happened, as well as what you're told? There's more to the narrative than what you're told. Did you know that? What do you think about the situation once you find out that there's more to it than what you've been told? Does that change your perspective? That's why truther movies work. That's why people, for lack of a better term, fall for truther movies over the official narrative. Because the truther movie works. And it doesn't try to, like, force you into thinking something. I mean, even if it was, like, it would have to be a very, very well-crafted version of something. And that's sort of what A Rich Man's Trick tells you right off the bat, is that everything you've ever seen that questions the narrative and got its way into your hands, your eyes, that those are all CIA, FBI created videos, loose change, all of it, all designed to affect your narrative. Come on.
Gotta win one more match, so
You just said there was one more guy.
I know, I have to kill him.
Why haven't you killed him? These are very simple questions that I always think is surprising that never get answered, right? It's it's always just fascinating to me how it's like, did you really not think about these things? And let's say, okay, you really don't think about these things. Now that it's been brought to your attention, now what do you think? know? Have you thought about does it make sense? Come on, lady.
Yeah, whatever, I can do it later.
You can do it later. Thank you, sir. All right, so I wanted to look this up. Let's see, TWA Flight 800. First thing that pops up. Interestingly, Wikipedia. All right. So this is one of these things where this is going to be one of these stories where, again, keep in mind, there's no me that's related to any of the people that are, it's not like there's somebody like me that goes, yeah, my family was told to shut up about this. My uncle was killed in this thing. My family was nobody. Where is everybody that's supposedly related to this? So it was a scheduled international passenger flight from JFK International Airport in New York to Fluminense Airport in Rome, Italy, with a stopover at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, France, on July 17th, 1996. 1996, I was wrong. 8:31 p.m., 12 minutes after takeoff, the Boeing 747-100 serving the flight exploded and crashed into the Atlantic Ocean near East Montclair, New York. Okay, that's all 230. So 230 people, crew and passengers. Not one of those people has a relative like me nowadays. On board died in the crash. It is the third deadliest aviation accident in U.S. history. Accident investigators from the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, traveled to the scene, arriving the following morning, amid speculation that a terrorist attack was the cause of the crash. The FBI and New York Police Department Joint Terrorism Task Force, JTTF, initiated a parallel criminal investigation. 16 months later, the JTTF announced that no evidence of a criminal act had been found and closed its active investigation. The 4-year NTSB investigation concluded with the approval of the aircraft accident report on August 23rd, 2000. Ending the most extensive, complex, and costly air disaster investigation in U.S. history up to that time. The report's conclusion was that the probable cause of the accident was the explosion of flammable fuel vapors in the center fuel tank. Although it could not be determined with certainty, the likely ignition source was a short circuit. Yeah, that's easy. Problems with the aircraft's wiring were found, including evidence of arcing in the fuel quantity indication system, wires that entered the tank. Oh, sure, where the explosion happened from, you're going to find evidence of fault. Yep. The FQIS on Flight 800 is known to have been malfunctioning. The captain remarked about crazy readings from the system about 2 minutes and 30 seconds before the aircraft exploded. As a result of the investigation, new requirements were developed for aircraft to prevent future fuel tank explosions. Crazy how it never happened before that, though, huh? Is this the same thing? I mean, am I thinking about the same thing here? Okay, so let's just see here. We'll just keep going. Accident. On the day of the accident, the airplane departed the Elkington International Airport in Athens, Greece, as flight TWA Flight 881 had arrived at John F. Kennedy National Airport around 4:38 p.m. The aircraft was then refueled and the crew was changed. The crew was led by 58-year-old Captain Ralph G. Kevorkian. That's interesting. Who had flown for TWA for 31 years and for U.S. Air Force and for the U.S. Air Force for 9 years and had logged 18,700 flight hours, including 5,400 on the Boeing 47. Captain Czech Airman Stephen E. Snyder, 57, had flown for TWA, blah, blah. I don't care about this part. Also with the crew was 25-year-old flight engineer Oliver Crick, who had previously served as business. Okay. The ground maintenance crew locked out the thrust reverser for engine number 3, treated as a minimum equipment list item because of the technical problems with the thruster reverser sensors during the landing of TWA 881 at JFK before Flight 800's departure. Additionally, severed cables for the engine's thruster reverser were replaced. Severed cables. During refueling of the aircraft, the volumetric shutoff (VSO) control was believed to have been triggered before the tanks were full. To continue the pressure fueling, a TWA mechanic overrode the automatic VSO by pulling the volumetric fuse and an overflow circuit breaker. Maintenance records indicate that the aircraft had numerous VSO-related maintenance write-ups in the weeks before the accident. TWA was scheduled to depart JFK for Charles de Gaulle Airport around 7 p.m., but the flight's pushback was delayed until 8:02 p.m. by a disabled piece of ground equipment and a passenger baggage mismatch. Man, that is just super convenient, right? All this crazy shit was just happening on that day. After the owner of the baggage in question was confirmed to be on board, the flight crew... Since when does that happen? Have you ever heard of that before? That the plane is delayed because of some baggage? Isn't it usually like if you don't get your baggage on the plane, you're fucked? They'll send it to you if you're lucky. Isn't that how that works? The flight crew prepared for departure, and the aircraft pushed back from gate 27 at the TWA Flight Center. The flight crew started the engines at 8:04 p.m. However, because of previous maintenance undertaken on engine number 3, the flight crew only started engines number 1, 2, and 4. Engine number 3 was started 10 minutes later during taxi at 8:14 p.m. The initial departure was uneventful, with the 747 taking off from runway 22R5 minutes later at 8:19 p.m. Then TWA 800 then received a series of heading changes and generally increasing altitude assignments as it climbed to its intended cruising altitude. Weather in the area was light winds with scattered clouds, with dusk lightning conditions. The last radio transmission from the plane occurred at 8:30 p.m. when the flight crew received and then acknowledged instructions from Boston Center to climb to 1,500 feet. The last recorded radar transponder return from the plane was recorded by Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) radar site at Trevose, Pennsylvania at 8:31 p.m. 38 seconds later, David McLean, the captain of East Wind Airlines Flight 507, a Boeing 737-221 registered N22-1 US, which had suffered a near crash of its own a month prior, reported to Boston ARTCC that he just saw an explosion out here, adding, "We just saw an explosion up ahead of us here, about 1,600 feet or something like that. It just went down into the water." Subsequently, many air traffic control facilities in New York and Long Island areas received reports of an explosion from other pilots operating in the area. Many witnesses in the vicinity of the crash stated they saw or heard explosions accompanied by a large fireball over the ocean and observed debris, some of which was burning while falling into the water. Various civilians, military, and police vessels reached the crash site within minutes of the initial water impact. They searched for survivors but found none, making TWA 800 the second deadliest aircraft accident in history, at that time only exceeded by American Airlines 191. The NTSB was notified at approximately 8:50 on the day of the accident. A full GO team was assembled in Washington, D.C., and arrived on the scene early the next morning. Meanwhile, initial witness descriptions led many to believe that the cause of the crash was a bomb or surface-to-air missile attack. Let's see how much they actually talk about this. As the NTSB does not investigate criminal activity, the U.S. Attorney General is empowered to declare an investigation to be potentially linked to a criminal act and to require the NTSB to relinquish control of the investigation to the FBI. In the case of TWA 800, the FBI initiated a parallel investigation alongside the NTSB's accident investigation. Search and recovery operations were conducted by federal, state, and local agencies as well as by government contractors. Personnel in an HH-60 Pave Hawk helicopter of the New York Air National Guard witnessed the explosion from about 8 miles away and arrived at the scene of the explosion while debris was still falling into the water, forcing the crew to retreat. They reported their sighting to the tower at Suffolk County Airport. Remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, side scan sonar, and laser line scanning equipment were employed to search for and investigate underwater debris fields. Victims and wreckage were recovered by scuba divers and ROVs. Later, scallop trawlers were used to recover wreckage embedded in the seafloor. In one of the largest diver-assisted salvage operations ever conducted, often working in very dangerous and difficult conditions, more than 95% of the plane wreckage was eventually recovered. The search and recovery effort identified 3 main areas of wreckage underwater, which were classified by color. The yellow, red, and green zones contained wreckage from the front, center, and rear sections of the airplane, respectively. The green zone, with the aft portion of the aircraft, was located the furthest along the flight path. Pieces of the wreckage were transported by boat to shore and then by truck to leased hangar space at the former Grumman Aircraft Facility in Calverton, New York, for storage, examination, and reconstruction. You mean unlike 9/11, when everything was immediately shipped off to China to be liquidated, to be recycled? Remember how 9/11, the Halliburton, Cheney's Halliburton was the cleanup company that was used? And they immediately shipped all of the steel and everything that was involved in those buildings off to China so they could be melted down. No reconstruction was needed for this. The facility became the command center and headquarters for the investigation. The NTSB and FBI personnel were present to observe all transfers to preserve the evidentiary value of the records. Right, because, those terrorists out there trying to steal wreckage. The cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder were recovered by U.S. Navy divers 1 week after the accident. It's a lot of time. And the machines were immediately shipped to the NTSB laboratory in Washington, D.C. for analysis. The victims' remains were transported to the Suffolk County Medical Examiner office in Hapog, New York. Relatives of TWA 800 passengers and crew, as well as the media, gathered at the Ramada Plaza JFK Hotel. Many waited until the remains of their family members had been recovered, identified, and released. This hotel became known as Heartbreak Hotel for its role in hosting families of victims of several airline crashes. What a horrible thing. Some fucking J reporter did that. You know that. Many grieving relatives became angry because of TWA's delayed confirmation of the passenger list, conflicting information from agencies and officials, and mistrust of the recovery operations priorities. Although NTSB Vice Chairman Robert Francis stated that all bodies were retrieved as soon as they were spotted and the wreckage was recovered only if divers believed that victims were hidden underneath, many families were suspicious that investigators were not truthful or were withholding information. Why? Anger and political pressure were also directed at Suffolk County Medical Examiner Charles V. Wetley as recovered bodies backlogged at the morgue. Under constant pressure to identify victims with minimal delay, pathologists worked long hours. While some victims' bodies were generally intact, most others were burned, fragmented, skeletonized, or decaying. That doesn't make any sense. Necessitating identification using DNA testing and dental records, as the primary objective was to identify all remains rather than to perform detailed forensic autopsies. The thoroughness of the examinations was highly variable. I mean, if they were on board the plane, they died. What are we talking about? What's the importance in identifying the bodies so much? I don't understand. Ultimately, the remains of all 230 victims were recovered and identified, and the final victim identification occurred more than 10 months after the crash. With lines of authority unclear, differences in agendas and culture between the FBI and NTSB resulted in discord, which is weird because aren't they on the same team? The FBI, assuming that a criminal act had occurred, saw the NTSB as indecisive, expressing frustration at the NTSB's unwillingness to speculate on a cause. One FBI agent described the NTSB as no options, no nothing, or no opinions, no nothing. Meanwhile, the NTSB was required to refute or minimize speculation about conclusions and evidence frequently supplied to reporters by law enforcement officials and politicians. The International Association of Mechanics and Aerospace Workers, an invited party to the NTSB investigation, criticized the undocumented removal of FBI agents of wreckage from the hangar where it was stored. Why? Why would the FBI be removing shit? Why aren't they working together? If this is just a random explosion, why is it like this? Especially because, we're going to talk about the surface to air missile part, I hope. Although considerable discrepancy, this is eyewitness or witnessed interviews. Let's see what this one, this is a redacted like hell. Blank was interviewed at blank, Washington, New York. After being advised of their identities, of the identities of the interviewing agents and the nature of the interview, Blank provided the following information. On the evening of July 17, 1996, Blank was at the West Hampton Yacht Squadron on an outside covered porch. Must be nice. Between 8:30 and 8:45 p.m. Blank saw what she initially thought was a boat flare. She saw the flare when it was already at the midpoint in the sky. She was facing south, overlooking Moriches, Moriches, I don't know, Bay and Dune Road. As Blank faced south, she estimated that the flare would have been at about 11 o'clock. She did not see where the flare originated from, but thought it was as close as the bay. The flare continued ascending for about 3 seconds, but Blank took her eyes off of it as she looked, or a boat in the bay, which she thought. Wait, Blank took her eyes off of it as she looked, or should be for a boat in the bay, which she thought may have sent the flare. The flare was red-orange in color with white in the middle, elongated in the shape of a baseball bat, but more squat. Blank did not see any smoke or anything trailing the flare, but advised that she was focusing on the light. The light seemed to be moving away from her as if further south. As the flare ascended, it suddenly turned a deeper orange and got larger, but not exactly round in shape. Blank did not hear anything at that point. Slowly, the entire body of the flare descended and became more misformed in shape. Blank described the shape as being like a pulled tooth. Blank described the fire descending into the bay, but lost sight of it as it descended much further south beyond Dune Road. There was a smoke trail following the fire mass as it descended downward. Blank resides at blank. She advised that her boyfriend, blank, also saw it. He can be reached at the same number. So, this is just one of the eyewitness testimonies, right? So, the eyewitnesses, like multiple eyewitnesses, testify that there was some sort of flare. A missile was shot at the plane. They saw it. The plane took off, went up behind the clouds, and then they saw the missile come up from the water, and hit the fucking hit the thing, and Jesus Christ,
Right.
that's the point.
I'll take it.
And hit the thing, and then the thing fell. Like everybody that was there said that's what happened. Right? So this is the narrative that the witnesses, that your Goyim fellow people, and even Jays. I mean, you know, this is a very wealthy area, so there's a lot of Jays there too. Even the Jays that weren't in on it, you know, when initially interviewed, just said what they saw. And everybody talks about this. Now, one of the things that happens is anytime there's an emergency, it's like an unwritten rule that anyone in the area, any boats or anything like that, civilian, military, police, anything, they have to drop what they're doing and go see if they can help. It's just maritime bullshit. Again, unwritten rule. Everybody knows it. And that's what happened. You know, everybody started pouring onto the sea, seeing what they could do. Except for one Navy squadron that was seen on radar very close to where the flare initiated from, where the missile came from. And instead of doing what everybody's supposed to do, which is, you know, it's a squadron, it's multiple military boats. Instead of going towards the danger and helping out, radar shows them speeding away as fast as 30 knots in the opposite direction. Why? I mean, this is going to be just another one of those things where, you know, you're either going to believe what you want to believe. Well, you're always going to believe what you want to believe. But you're going to, you know, understand that maybe you're being lied to. Maybe we're being lied to, or you're just going to keep going with it, I guess. All right. Although considerable discrepancies existed among the many witness accounts, most had seen a, quote, streak of light described by 38 of 258 witnesses as ascending. So what is that? What's 40 out of 26 or out of 260?
What?
40 out of 260.
40.
What percentage is that?
60? No, 6.
15%. 15% of the witnesses described seeing the same streak of light going
Yep, 30 knots isn't that fast. You are correct. It's only like 40 miles an hour or some shit. 30, I don't know. But considering we're talking about large Navy vessels that should be speeding towards the thing that we're seeing not going that fast, only 30 knots. And I'm just guessing. I can't quite remember. I know I thought 30 knots would have been too much, so I was trying to be conservative. But maybe we'll find out. Maybe they'll talk about it. Witnesses described by 38 of 258 witnesses as ascending, moving to a point where a large fireball appeared. Looks like they're mad at me for this one, huh? Like, share, and sub if you're watching. Just like always, I'm not talking about any sort of crazy conspiracies. I'm reading what they want us to know. My sources, because I don't ever give my sources. My source is Wikipedia. Intense public interest arose regarding the witness reports, as did much speculation that the reported streak of light was a missile that had struck TWA 800, causing the airplane to explode. These witness accounts were a major reason for the initiation and duration of the FBI's criminal investigation. So again, we have this situation where, you know, it unlike 9/11, everything is carefully collected and then laid all out, and they figured out that there was arcing between the this and the that and the yacht. That, you know, that's what they're coming up with. And yet throughout the investigation, the FBI kept removing pieces from the investigation. Why would they be removing pieces? What would be like? It's a horrible tragedy, no doubt. But it should be just a seamless investigation done by all parties involved. There shouldn't be any controversy between the FBI and the NTSB. They should be working hand in hand to get to the bottom of things. There shouldn't be reports of the FBI, you know, undocumented FBI agents taking pieces from the wreckage and making them disappear. Then you have 15% of the witnesses saying that that they saw a missile hit the motherfucker. These people have nothing to gain. What would be their purpose in lying about it? The whole thing was very suspicious. I tried to follow it, but it disappeared really quickly. Well, that's why we're doing it now, James Dixon. And so the thing that's always strange to me is, like, pretty sure you're one of the people who are you know, constantly talking shit, but if you're not, I'm mistaken and I'm sorry. But at what point do you say, okay, this part is real and this part isn't? What narratives did they give you that you accept as true over the ones you go, oh, that's conspiracy bullshit? And then what's the reason for it? Like, this thing is so obviously fucked up, so obviously manufactured and manipulated, and just, this is one of the most obvious, I don't even know what you call it, because it's not even a false flag. It's not like they said it was another, it was just an attack. It was I don't know, were they testing something? I'm not really sure. That being said, again, 230 people were killed, and not one of them is related to a Guy Williams, or was related to a Guy Williams. Not one of them has a relative like me that you know, is making a big fucking deal out of it. In fact, you are the first person to talk about it since it's happened. No, sometimes you're spot on, sometimes you're not. Right. Well, I'd much rather hear about the things I'm not correct about, you know. But again, how does that work for you? Like, what is the thing? you know, it's totally fucked up. It's totally obviously not what they tell us it is. But I'm going to believe that one? Or do you believe Trump? You know, you're like, oh yeah, you know, all the other politicians and government is all fucked up and everything's screwed up, but then somehow Trump just got through there. Somehow, all the rich people just gave Trump endless dollars.
Oh, Trump's releasing the Epstein list, and somehow his name's not on it.
Of course. It's such a stupid thing. Trump was best buddies with Epstein. Trump, Stephanopoulos, and Epstein were known as the Three Amigos or the Three Musketeers. I never remember. In the New York nightlife scene for years. For years. And Epstein just didn't magically develop a proclivity to fucking children. Even Trump said it when he was interviewed. He was like, yeah, Epstein and I are good buddies. You know, he likes girls a little younger than I do, though. But that was it.
Not much. Yours was 15 when you started courting her, and you were in your 30s. 15 is a little girl. Sorry.
We can't prove that. I can't find that information anymore.
Oh, that's very convenient. You're a fucking pedophile.
But it was the Trump administration that covered up his death. That made the whole thing disappear and refused to do the investigation and told us that they had seen footage that we hadn't seen that cleared everything. How anybody like that's the thing I don't understand. Why do you?
How does somebody on suicide watch commit suicide?
But why do he wasn't on? They took him off for some reason. He wasn't on suicide watch after a week after supposedly trying. But it's how do you go? All the shit with Epstein. Trump is the president of the United States. Trump has all these connections to Epstein. Trump covered up the Epstein. Trump's different. He's not one of them.
Oh no.
How does that click?
Because he's going to release the information. He's exposing it.
You know, I could give you a great example of
He
this.
got close to them so he could get the information and expose it. That's how.
When I first discovered Ken O'Keefe, I was all about Ken O'Keefe. I you know, I devoured every video I could find that he was in. And I just thought, and I would tell people like, hey, you know what? Go watch. This is just before Facebook Live became a thing. And back then I was just making videos. You know, 10, 15-minute videos sometimes. And back then I was very much focused on chemtrails. I hadn't gone down this path yet. I you know, I had sniffed around it, sniffed the path. It took a couple steps in, but I hadn't gone down it yet.
Discovered the parts of the body. You hadn't discovered the head yet.
Well, no, I mean, you know, Ken O'Keefe was the first guy I saw talking about the Jays. And I knew that he was telling the truth. Like, I didn't know enough like I know now, but I knew he wasn't lying. And so I was like, look, I say this to this day, like, if you know the guy that's doing better than me, does the truther thing better than me, show me him. I'll check him out, or her. And if I believe that they're doing it better than me, I'll tell everybody to watch that person. But until that comes, I'm not going to do that again. And I did that with Ken. And I said, you know, everybody go watch Ken O'Keefe. He's the guy. He's telling the truth. He's good at this. And then everything went down with him. And I had personal interaction with the whole camp, if you will, the Ken O'Keefe camp. And you have to be able to do this thing even to the things you like. So if you like being a Christian for some weird reason, you have to look at Christianity just as skeptically as you look at everything else. You have to look at Trump just as skeptically as you look at Kamala and Biden.
Well, that was one way I shut Joe up. He's not a Trump fan, but he thinks that what Trump is doing is in the right direction to overhaul the government, whatever. And he just keeps saying, I don't like him, but let it play out. He's going in the right direction.
That's what Algo used to say. That's what all the Trumpers would say. Just wait. Just red wave coming. Red wave coming.
You know, so, but then he was trying to point out good things that he's doing, and he said he's releasing the Epstein list. And I said, his ass is on that list, right? And he kind of went, huh? I said, yeah, it was him and Epstein and fucking the other dude. I couldn't remember his name. I thought it was Weinstein, but I couldn't remember.
Which, no offense, but when you say it wrong and the person knows you're wrong, it immediately discredits your argument.
I said to him, I think it was Weinstein, but it doesn't sound right. I think it was somebody else. But the three of them were the three amigos. They fucking hung out together. And, he goes, yeah, but Trump went up, talking to Epstein, saying something. Trump stood up. And I said, really? When his wife was 15, when he started courting her? And shut him up again. He had nothing to say about it.
Again, these are we can't make these arguments though.
We saw the information.
I know, but you still can't. You can't send somebody on the wild goose chase because all they're gonna find is shit that says she was 18, 19, whatever it is. It's all been whitewashed. And if they're not going to, it's like how if you look up the email. The tweet that was issued the morning Epstein was killed. When somebody, a security guard, released a tweet like a half hour or an hour before the story broke. Something like, holy shit, guys, they're switching him out. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Something like that. And then hours later, a different IP address claiming to be that security guard was like, I was just kidding y'all, blah, 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 blah. Well, if you go look it up now, you'll see that the tweet that came out was concerning because it gave details of things that hadn't been released yet. And that tweet also gave rise to other conspiracy theories of early tweets. So they've completely rewritten it so you can't find it. I'm the guy looking for it. I'm sure if I was better at this, then maybe I could find something. But it's what power do we have? Until we overthrow the Jays, until the Goyim unite and overthrow the Jays that control the narrative, we're going to continue to be victimized. We don't have any truth. We only know what they want us to know.
Like, you know why I hate all this? Because I have always loved Tom Hanks, and I see this and I want to see it. But now I know how fucking evil he is, and
No. You have the tiniest glimpse of, some horrible shit that you've heard about him. I don't want to
like him, but I like him.
You don't like him. You like a character that's given to you. Misdirected sometimes. Again, I'd love to know what I'm wrong about. That's the key. How do I get better if I don't know what I'm wrong about? Earth is flat and we were never monkeys. I agree, but I also don't believe in Jesus because that's dumb. Like, I never thought in my life I would say this. I still can't believe I say this out loud. And this should show you guys. You want to talk about somebody that fucking, that doesn't adjust. And, not only am I not going against, I'm going against the way I pushed for such a long time. For me to say that I think that the Big Bang Theory is dumber than, makes less sense than the Bible, when I think the Bible is as dumb as it gets, like, that's hard for me to even wrap my head around. You know, I used to be all about space travel, you know, volunteering to be one of the guys that colonizes Mars or whatever. Like, I was all for it. And it you know, I essentially wasted many days, weeks, months of my life watching all sorts of space documentaries and wanting to be the smartest guy in the room, so I took in whatever information I could find. And I purposefully stayed away from the flat earth stuff because I just didn't want, like, to me, Christians all over the earth should be like, you know, should be all about flat earth. Should be all about, hey, we told, but it can't, because it immediately asks the question, well, the church is the scientific authority for such a, what made the church go against the Bible and God in the first place? Let's see. Spirit of the God Eater Christ, the eliminator of old gods. Come on, all that shit's fake and stupid. I don't understand. Again, this is part of that thing where I don't understand. People can be so smart that they see through all of the bullshit. And yet somehow they believe that the Christ narrative is a truth that, like, slipped through somehow. The thing that's pushed on us more than anything. You know, the thing that the government has tax-free locations on every corner that collects tax-free dollars from everyone. The thing that constantly gets caught fucking violating children and just keeps being allowed to exist. Like, think about how utterly ridiculous it all is. And then, because you have this consistent narrative that exists in the truther sphere that the system is trying to hide God. The system is hiding God from us. They're trying to take us. All they do is push that shit on us. What are you talking about? You know? Along with patriotism, it's God. God bless America. Oh, see, James Dixon had to get stupid. If we were monkeys, why aren't there tiger people? Why aren't there elephant people? Why were the one specific monkeys the only ones that fucking evolved? Nothing else did. Everything else just stopped evolving at one point. It was like fish, then tiger, then tiger. But with us, it was fish, then chimps, then people. It's just stupid. People tell you, oh, here we go. People tell me I'm wrong all the time. Yep. People tell me I'm wrong all the time. Do people tell me how and why I'm wrong? No. The stars do not move. You're like here. This life is the way of life. To change the world, says the guy that comes here every day. Must not be that much of a waste of time. Zeus was not real either. Of course not. It's all bullshit. Once you accept the idea of resets, that there was a reset that happened somewhere in the 1700s, then everything that supposedly happened before it is bullshit. Just like everything that happened afterwards that doesn't tell you about the reset is bullshit. Yes, super platinum. That's why I'm so rich. The greatest story ever told, maybe Christ was in. It's not a good story. It's a terrible story. It's so bad that you have to go to special people so they can translate it to you once a week. Because, you know, it's so it needs to be interpreted. Reading it is so goddamn difficult.
Yeah. Did they fix it? Because I didn't see anybody.
Protestantism is the way. Oh, Protestantism. That's what it is. The Protestants got it right. Come on.
Okay, so if his balls
Can Almighty God make a rock so large that he couldn't lift it? Dun dun dun. God is the concept of God is stupid. Did she watch Hollywoodism? Oh, God is everything. God is everything. Sure it is. God is everything. So God is right there when the children are being raped. Like right here. God has this viewpoint of children being raped by clergy of all people. Clergy in churches on a regular basis and does nothing about it. God has a perfect viewpoint of Christians being Christian women and children being bombed by Israelis left and right. Isn't that amazing? Evolution doesn't stop. It takes millions of years, so you're told. It's not my fault. You're stuck in my own. Yep, that's what it is. It is, because you could just say no. You don't have to click on it. I love when people act like my video is the only one that they could watch. Like there's not a gazillion other videos or a gazillion other things they could be doing. They picked up their YouTube and YouTube is stuck on my feed. That must be what it is. You know how stupid you sound? You might as well like, share, and sub if you're going to be that stupid. It's a story, but he's still part caveman. That is for sure. Caveman, because that's real. It's an allegory. No, the Bible is meant to be taken as the word of God. That's not a Christian worldview. God has left the chat. That's Protestantism. Your video is more entertaining to troll. Yeah, it must be. It must be that. So I guess it is worth something then, isn't it? I appreciate the trolling. You know, every time somebody comes here with that they have nothing else going on in their life, that they're wasting time making my numbers better. And they keep proving over and over again that I'm right. Because if I was wrong, they would say so. They would focus on the thing that I'm wrong about. But instead, they just keep talking about stupid shit because they're basically saying, well, you're right about what you're saying, but, you know, I'm so obsessed with you. And I know you won't like me because I'm not a good person. So I'm just going to do this so can I get your attention? Like, it's really fucking weird. He made us, but he left us. We weren't supposed to. God, it's so stupid. Why would it make us to begin with? Yes, for the profane. If you don't get it, you are profane. That's what it is. Yeah, why is God referred to as he? Because people are stupid. Because it was written by man, literal men, to control people. Freemasonry is knowing the deeper allegory and teaches of the NKJ. Sure. We have focused on what you're wrong about. Nope, here we go. Here comes the same old shit. So instead of saying what I'm wrong about, he's going to say that. He does it all the time. We do it all the time, and you just ignore it. Blah, blah, blah. I swear to God. These guys, they just keep making the argument for me. Yeah, tools, most Masons are profane, patriarchy, is the case you're an atheist, we were monkeys, is true. So, it's funny how every time somebody realizes they're wrong or outmatched, they start arguing their own narrative. Right? Oh, so we're monkeys then? Yeah, I think we started this whole little roundabout with the idea that us being monkeys is stupid. But okay, that's what you want to go with. It's just funny how like people have been taught that it's only one of two things. And actually most of them believe it's basically both. So much so that the church had to like make adjustments in saying that aliens were within God's realm of possibility. that if aliens do exist, then yeah, because God would have created them. Tell me, what do you think? I think we can't know the truth until we overthrow the Jays. We Goyim get together and overthrow the Jays that control our narrative. Pretty simple. Yeah. I'm on the sex offender registry. Where? Show us. I love when people make fucking stupid ass statements like that. Right? You show me the link. You tell me what to search for, and we'll see if we can. I'll show it on the phone. You make any post the link. Post the link, and I'll fucking look it up right now. Right? These goofy pedos think they can do that shit to me. See, I'm gonna I respond to it. Instead of these guys who don't even respond to it, I'm gonna ask you for the proof. Where is it? Show me. You're saying that I'm on a registry. Show me. I agree, but I do think they give hints of a deeper truth. No, it's all just bullshit. It's all bullshit to keep us distracted. As long as we aren't talking about the Jays, that's all they care about. They don't care what stupid bullshit we get into. They don't care because everything that we get into, they've provided us with the information. Not Catholic, not Baptist, Protestantism because the devil hates God people. You changed your name, look up, yep, oh, that's what it is. So it's caveman, that's what it is. So look, dumbasses make dumbass claims like it's a joke. And this guy didn't deny that he was a pedo. I said, these dumbass pedos make these dumbass statements. And then when called out, they continue to prove how stupid they are. You know, so at this point, this person literally has no credibility. You know right now that this person will say any sort of bullshit just to get the attention. They have no truth behind what they're saying. You had the floor. You could have proved it. You were hoping that you were going to affect things and people were going to go, what? This guy's on, oh no. And I gave you the option and instead you prove what a piece of shit J-pedo you have to be. See? I mean, it's done. That's it. The Jays rule. Yep, that's what it is. When we rebel, what is our religion? Why do we have to have a religion? Why do we have to believe in some sort of, supernatural space deity kind of bullshit? Yep, that's what it must be. I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. When I tell you guys that if they could find something wrong with what I'm doing or saying, if they could point it out, they would. They're so desperate. They're not going to focus in on the things that I'm talking about, which are the fundamental things that sort of rule our lives. They're not going to talk about those things. They're going to make up goofy shit because that's all they can do. And it shows you if they had the ability to, if they had the ability to, they would come up with anything. They would point out if there was some sort of deep dark something in my history, they would go right at it. They would focus on it. So I really appreciate the fact that they're so, it's really easy to prove the point. Sometimes you're not going to have, lack of evidence is evidence against. Right? So sometimes you're not going to have the evidence to show the thing, and that lack of evidence shows you that the thing doesn't exist. You just have to be willing to accept it. And it doesn't seem like people are willing to accept, when it comes to, especially with church, it's nothing but a lack of evidence. and you still want to believe it. Why? Especially when you look at how horrible it is. All the really negative, awful shit that comes along with the church. Anyway, this was a good way. You guys did good. I stopped talking about TWA Flight 800 for a little bit, but I'm glad it worked out this way. You know, it had to work out this way. This is you know, it working out this way it sort of verifies more of what I'm saying. You know, again, they're not. It's like if any of the other things, if I was getting any of the other things wrong, they would be focusing in on those things. So instead, they have to make up goofy shit, right? Well, that shows you that what I am talking about is correct. If they could, they would, but they don't want us talking about TWA Flight 800. They definitely don't want to address the whole J issue and all that shit. They, you know, it's really, I appreciate it. I appreciate the effort. And just like the dumb Jays that say things like, you know, if you open up the books on Israel, you'll demonize Israel, thinking that that's a statement that works in their favor, not realizing how stupid they sound. It's the same thing here. If they could just easily focus in on what I'm talking about and then just make me look stupid, they would, but they have to make up shit. And I want to address, you know, when shit like that happens, that's an easy way to completely discredit that person. Everything that person says from here on out has no merit. You know they'll lie. But it's also, you know, like there are a lot of people that are on the fence here. And if you just watch things, a lot of times, like if you just watch Hollywoodism, and you don't pause it, you don't rewind it, you don't really take it in, you're going to miss a lot of shit. And so there's a lot of stuff that's happening on here that I'd like to continue with what I'm doing, but I have to pause. For anybody that might be like, wait, what's going on? Or, you know, this is the evidence. This is the evidence that this other argument is correct. Okay. Approximately 80 FBI agents conducted interviews with potential witnesses daily. No verbatim records of the witness interviews were produced. Instead, the agents who conducted the interviews wrote summaries that they then submitted. That is fucking weird. That's not how evidence works. I mean, that's, you know, somebody comes to the police station and says, I was witness to a crime. They bring them back, they record it, they, you know, read them their rights just so they know they have the right to leave anytime they want, but they can say, look, I'm a witness. You know, they take that shit seriously. They didn't have no eyewitness accounts were ever produced. It was all just summaries. Like, this is fucking crazy, man. This is just crazy. Look at this dumb shit. Just amazing. I don't know what, like, to me, learning, I feel like I'm Goku and shit, you know? In my spare time, I want to get better. If I could physically do things to get better, I would. But because my physical is so limited, mentally, you know, I want to get better. I want to know things. I always find it fascinating that people come here and start crying when I'm reading the narrative we're supposed to read. Like, what are you even crying about? It's almost like you don't want people to even know anything about this. No, were submitted. Witnesses were not asked to review or correct the summaries. Included in some of the witness summaries were drawings or diagrams of what they had witnessed. Within days of the crash, the NTSB announced its intent to form its own witness group and to interview witnesses to the crash. After the FBI raised concerns about non-governmental parties in the NTSB's investigation having access to this information and possible prosecutorial difficulties resulting from multiple interviews of the same witnesses, the NTSB deferred and did not interview witnesses. That just doesn't make... Okay, it makes sense, right? But it doesn't make sense the way that we're supposed to think. I don't know how anybody could hear that and go, yeah, that makes sense. Of course the FBI is going to do that and stop that. And, you know, of course the NTSB, who's doing an investigation, isn't going to interview the fucking eyewitness accounts. Do you see this? This is fucking crazy. America for America. No, don't be stupid. America is just some invisible borders some Jays made to keep us where we are. Pretty simple. If you think that because your parents, grandparents had some dirty, nasty sex here in the United States and you were born here, so that means you have more rights to life than some child born in Palestine or Africa or something like, then you're a fucking piece of shit. You know, you're just a piece of shit. There's no way around that. You know, you're a piece of shit. Doesn't mean you have to be a piece of shit. It just means you are a piece of shit. They've made you into a piece of shit. Patriotism, civic and racial pride are the dumbest things. I get why there's brown and black pride and all that, because white people did their best to try to make black people and brown people feel insecure or inferior. But the concept of I'm proud of my skin color because my parents had sex, like all those same people, they don't want to talk about their parents having sex. Right? Nobody likes to talk about their parents having sex. Nobody definitely likes talking about their grandparents having sex. Do you know what a salad will cost you if if Americans pick our vegetables? People are just so stupid. This whole idea that they're trying to take our job. This country is being overrun by immigrants. I hear this shit all the time. Overrun by immigrants. I don't know a single person that's lost their job to some immigrants. Other than like some lazy ass painters. But because we're all so racist anyway, it's not like you have a hard time finding work. There are plenty of people that won't allow Mexicans to do their work. But you don't hear about doctors, lawyers, professors, CEOs. You know, you don't hear about the top upper echelon, even the middle echelon, crying about we're being overrun. They're taking our jobs. They're taking our jobs. People acting like white people are just trying to get that strawberry picking job, but they just can't. Man, honey, I thought I made it to the third interview. And I really thought I was going to get it, but they decided to go with the Mexicans. Thought I was going to get that job. People are just so fucking stupid. $20. $20 for a salad is basically what you pay nowadays. More like $20 for a thing of strawberries. You know, $10, $15 for a head of lettuce. And we're sitting here begging for that to happen. No, we demand that happen. We demand that happen. If I'm not ranting on YouTube, then what are you going to do with your loser life?
Yeah, I just got to see what I have.
Well, the way it used to be when media was.
With a bunch of them. I'm pretty sure.
That was the name. The thing is, we should have machines doing the majority of the
I'll
work.
have to check when I get down there. For sure.
A lot of that shit is the stuff where it makes it
Alright,
real
well,
difficult.
Doggies are fed and let out.
Nobody's gonna want to do those jobs.
Like I said, the heat's on, so it's working.
Well, not true. That's not true. There are plenty of people out there that
So
like
we
being
just gotta
farmers.
Get back, turn the water back on.
And if they knew like it was part of your patriotism,
Okay.
part of your world citizen
I
pride.
was just trying to frustrate the dogs, that's all.
I hate saying that. Ken O'Keefe sort of ruined that
Because I
world
spoiled
citizen thing, but
They got their dog TV back on.
You know.
And,
you run the farm. You know, we spend it. Everybody has to contribute, 2-3 hours a day to help picking the strawberries or some shit like that.
Ready to text you,
It'll
actually.
fucking work.
You need to go grab
It will
my
work.
dog and feed them.
I mean, it's just so like, look at how desperate you guys are. It's so amazing. Anyway, let's go back to it. Within days of the crash, you got to hear this. You got to hear this. No, she's not. I want my wife to hear this because this shit's amazing, but I don't want to keep reading it. And she's on the phone where she's getting talked to.
Yeah.
But, you know how that is. We need slaves. No, we don't.
Yep.
We have robots.
Yeah.
We have the means, the technology, and the resources for everyone to live a great life on this planet with no one having to work. Or if we do have to work, again, everybody works 2-3 hours a day, 3-4 days a week. It requires a change in our direction, but it's only something that it takes a couple generations to get through. We're not like naturally inclined to be super selfish. There's this
Right. It had to have been before I woke
there's
up.
these
Well,
videos
no,
that I
because
watch
like
on
said, it's
YouTube
still only
about
8
this
or
like
9
crazy
years.
tribe
It might
that
have just been when I was out. I had to take Joe at
they say that they're
It might
not
have been
in
when I was
contact,
there.
but you see that they have like shorts on and shit, belts on and sandals and shit.
just now. Yeah.
They live, they're bush people,
He must have
and they live out. They speak and do that clicking shit. It's crazy. And they spend their days hunting. That's all they do is they go around and they hunt little animals and they kill, little squirrels and shit, and they collect them and then they cook them.
Right.
And they eat them, and when they eat them, they like, it's crazy how they eat.
Yeah, and call me when
But
you get home. We could play with some
if somebody gives them like there's shit you'll see where like somebody will give them like a thing of pop, right, some soda, to have like what are the fucking a thing of pop, not a 2 liter, but what's a regular thing of pop?
20 ounce?
20 ounce or whatever. They have something like that, and they'll give it to one of them. And it's funny because they don't know to like twist off the top, so they'll like cut the top off. And when they drink it, they immediately go, hey, come here. They want everybody that's around to try it. Nobody's like, oh, this is so good, I'm the only one that gets it. They don't think about what it's going to be like when they're old. The one guy says, all he thinks about is fucking and killing animals so he can survive. All right, so listen to this. So we're talking about the Flight 800.
What is that?
TWA Flight 800 was it was in 1996. A plane took off from the airport. Multiple witnesses saw what appeared to be a missile fly up, hit it, and it crashed into the ocean. And there's a big conspiracy. They say it was a malfunction in the sky, but lots of people say there was. So anyway, approximately 80 FBI agents conducted interviews with potential witnesses daily. No verbatim records of the witnesses' interviews were produced. Instead, the agents who conducted the interviews wrote summaries that they then submitted. Witnesses were not asked to review or correct the summaries. Included in some of the witness summaries were drawings or diagrams of what the witnesses had observed. Within days of the crash, the NTSB announced its intent to form its own witness group and to interview witnesses to the crash. After the FBI raised concerns about non-governmental parties in the NTSB's investigation having access to this information and possible prosecutorial difficulties resulting from multiple interviews of the same witnesses, the NTSB deferred and did not interview witnesses. What?
They deferred to the summaries.
Okay, so this is supposedly a plane that exploded due to technical difficulties. What sort of prosecutorial compromises could be made by interviewing people? Like, they use all those big words and big terminology, but when you think about it, that doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. A safety board investigator later reviewed FBI interview notes and briefed other board investigators on their contents. In November 1996, the FBI agreed to allow the NTSB access to summaries of witness accounts in which personally identifying information had been redacted and to conduct a limited number of witness interviews. Again, why would the people responsible for the investigation not have access to the witness accounts?
Right. It's bullshit.
It's like with the Trump thing, when they kept arguing when Trump was going to get impeached over collusion with Russia. That was the first charge, and the second charge was obstruction of justice. And everybody kept focusing on the collusion charges. And I was like, why aren't you guys just doing the obstruction of justice charges? Because, like, right off the bat, the fact that they're only providing summaries of the phone call, not the transcripts of the phone call, the summaries of the transcripts, that's obstruction. Why is nobody making a big deal about the fact that the actual conversation is not being given to the government people? It's not like I'm asking for it, even though I should be allowed to it because, transparency and government and all that, freedom of information. But this is bullshit. Summaries of the interviews. Meaning, whatever they felt like including or felt like not including is what made it into these summaries. In April 1998, the FBI provided the NTSB with the identities of the witnesses, but because of the time that it had elapsed, a decision was made to rely on the original FBI documents than to re-interview witnesses. 2 years later, less than a year and a half later, this is April, this thing happened in November or whatever. Are we serious right now? Like, this is the stuff where it's just so frustrating to me because I go, Am I making something up? Am I reading some Alex Jones bullshit? What is the problem here? What am I reading and going, holy shit, how is this the official narrative and nobody's up in arms about this?
Representative Jamie Raskin announces a class action suit on behalf of all Americans against Trump and Elon Musk, alleging breach of American data by Department of Government officials.
Who gives a fuck? Nothing's going to happen from that. If nothing happens from this, that is only there so we pay attention to it. This is fucking newsworthy. I guarantee there's not a single American that I read this to, even like my kids, I would read this to and they'd go, well, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they let them interview? This is fucking insane. And I know this doesn't have anything to do with blah, 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 but it's the same people that not only pulled this off, then covered it up. It's also the same news that isn't doing what I'm doing. You telling me I'm a better investigator than the best investigators the news has to offer and the police and all that shit? And all I'm doing is reading Wikipedia. I mean, are we fucking serious right now? Further investigation and analysis. Examination of the cockpit voice recorder, the CVR, and flight data recorder showed a normal takeoff and climb with the aircraft in normal flight before both abruptly stopped at 8:31 and 0.12 p.m. At 8:29:15 p.m., Captain Kevorkian, captain's name was Kevorkian, was heard to say, "Look at that crazy fuel flow indicator there on number 4. See that?" A loud noise recorded on the last few tenths of a second of the CVR was similar to the last noises recorded from other airplanes that had experienced in-flight breakups. This, together with the distribution of wreckage and the witness reports, indicated a sudden catastrophic in-flight breakup of TWA Flight 800. Yeah, that's not what, like, nobody said that.
Yeah.
In a breakup, you would still hear stuff, right? Like, wouldn't there be more than just that? Wouldn't the only thing that would immediately sever the connection be the explosion that everybody said they saw? Possible cause of the in-flight breakup. Investigators considered several possible causes for structural breakup: structural failure and decompression, detonation of a high-energy explosive device such as a missile warhead exploding either upon impact with the airplane or just before impact, a bomb exploding inside the airplane, or a fuel-air explosion in the center wing fuel tank. That just happened to be the one. But, you know, the other thing about the recording is, like, did you hear it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah, I didn't either. You think I could?
No.
Do you think even if I did hear it, what proof would I have that recording came from that incident? How do you know any of it when it's presented to you? Like I say about this, the most curious thing about this to me is that not only does this story exist, 230 people were killed, exactly 230, not 232 or not 229 or 230 people. None of them is related to a Guy Williams somewhere down the line. Not one of them has a cousin, I got some ash on my hands, has my war paint, has any sort of relation to someone like me who is like, hey, what the fuck? I mean, you don't hear anybody talking about this. You don't hear any relatives of Waco talking about, hey, I lost my relatives, blah, blah, blah. You don't hear any relatives of 9/11. There's the mothers. We used to hear about the mothers, but that's about it. You don't really hear about, like, there's some 3,000 people or something that were killed in that. There's not a whole bunch of relatives that are actively out there making their presence known.
You would think.
You would think there'd be more project. You never heard anybody talk about being Operation Paperclip.
No. No,
I mean,
I've
that's
never heard that before you said it.
right, but it's an absolute thing. There's no question. There's nobody from the Pulse nightclub shooting. None of the parents of the relatives of the Pulse nightclub shooting prior to the Vegas shooting was the largest shooting on American soil since they used to kill Indians all the time. I think it's like 50 people or something. I don't remember how many. All those gay guys were supposedly killed at that nightclub. And that actually had another story that was reported associated with it. There was another guy arrested in Santa Monica or something that was supposed to be doing a coordinated attack but got lost. And when he got lost, he ended up getting pulled over, and he told all about it. He told that he was supposed to be the distraction. It was a whole operation. And then when it got reported by the Santa Monica police and the I think it was Santa Monica, the newspapers, the FBI came in and told them to stop talking about it, and they supposedly weren't going to stop, but they did. But again, none of those parents, none of the brothers, cousins, no nothing. No relatives, no friends, nobody from that shooting are out there making their voices heard. Nobody from the Vegas thing is out there making their voices heard. I've never heard a fucking blip about the San Bernardino people. The 14 people supposedly killed by that random Arabic couple who handcuffed themselves in the back of their vehicle before having a shootout with police. Handcuffed themselves behind their own backs. I mean, those are much smaller things, but it's just Oklahoma City. Like I say, where are all of the people from Oklahoma? Where are all the people who, you know, there were like 40 some children, maybe 60, I don't remember, babies that were in the nursery that were killed in the bombing. You're telling me all of those parents, they never had any other kids? There's no brothers or sisters or cousins or anything that are Guy Williams? Not any of them?
No, they're all good family members and they keep quiet.
Every single one of them, in every single instance, every single thing that happens, the victims' families are they just disappear. I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. Something like this, I mean, the fact that it's this fucking obvious, it's on Wikipedia this obviously, that I'm reading it going, holy fuck, what the fuck, that there's not relatives who lost someone really close to them on that flight that aren't just furious and making a huge fucking deal about this. Where the fuck are they? Anyway, close examination of the wreckage revealed no evidence of structural faults such as fatigue, corrosion, or mechanical damage that could have caused the in-flight breakup. The breakup could have been initiated by an in-flight separation of the forward cargo door, as had occurred in the Turkish Airlines Flight 981 or United Airlines Flight 881 accidents. But all evidence indicated that the door was closed and locked at impact. The NTSB concluded that the in-flight breakup of TWA Flight 800 was not initiated by a pre-existing condition resulting in a structural failure and decompression. So if that's not the case, that's interesting. What San Bernardino is just down the freeway from me? San Bernardino? Remember? San Bernardino when the Arabic couple that the news just went in their house, found their social security cards, you know, the Arabic, I've already done that one once, but I'll have to do it again. That is one of the craziest fucking stories ever. The narrative that they give about how they set up and they took it down and they set it up again, and just everything associated with that does not make sense. It is one of the worst narratives they've ever given us. I'm gonna have to talk about that one tomorrow. Maybe if I'm done with this one early, we'll jump over to it. You've never heard of the San Bernardino shooting? And then the subsequent cold weather fog that hit the northern hemisphere of the planet for 3-4 weeks afterward? Happened in late November. How do you say you never heard of the San Bernardino shooting? The fact that there's somebody that is, miles away from this, that doesn't remember this, that it's not every year we don't have a memorial to the people that lost their lives in the San Bernardino shooting. Why is that not the case? We'll get into it. Okay, a review of recorded data from long range and airport surveillance radars revealed multiple contacts of airplanes or objects in TWA 800's vicinity at the time of the accident. None of these contacts intersected TWA Flight TWA 800's position at any time. Attention was drawn to data from the Islip, New York, ARTCC facility that showed 3 tracks in the vicinity of TWA Flight 800 that did not appear in any other radar data. What is that? From the Islip, New York, ARTCC. It's not even blue, so I can't even see what the fuck it is. That showed 3 tracks in the vicinity of TWA Flight 800 that did not appear in any other radar data? None of these sequences intersected TWA Flight 800's position at any time. None of the reviewed data showed radar returns consistent with a missile or other projectile traveling toward TWA Flight 800, except all those eyewitness accounts. The NTSB addressed allegations that Islip radar showed groups of military surface targets coverage of military surface targets coveraging suspiciously in an area around the accident, and that an identified 30-knot radar track 3 nautical miles from the crash site was involved in foul play, as evidenced by its failure to divert from its course and assist with the search and rescue operations. Gee, isn't that what I said? Isn't that what I said? And I'm sure people were like, bleh. That one dude was like, 30 knots isn't that fast. Blah, blah. Remember? Military records examined by the NTSB showed no military surface vessels within 15 nautical miles. Wait. So the 3 tracks that showed up on radar that didn't show up on any other radar, that were only 3 miles away from where it was and showed speeding off, that's not military. That's just drones and shit. Like, what are you talking about? In addition, and again, military records say that there was no ships there because the military is going to be honest about it. In addition, records indicated that the closest area scheduled for military use, warning area, was 160 nautical miles south. Yeah, sure. NDSB reviewed the 30-knot target track to determine why it had not diverted from its course to proceed to the area where the TWA 800 wreckage had fallen. TWA 800 was behind the target, and with the target's occupants likely looking forward, they would not have been in a position to observe the aircraft's breakup, subsequent explosions, or fireballs. Right. That's why, because they just didn't see it. Gotcha. The occupants of the target track were unlikely to have been able to hear the explosions over the sound of their craft's engines and the noises of the hull traveling through the water, especially if the occupants were in an enclosed bridge or cabin. Further review of the Islip radar data for similar summer days and nights in 1999 indicated the 30-knot track was consistent with normal commercial fishing, recreational, and cargo vessel traffic. Trust us. Trace amounts of explosive residue were detected on 3 samples of material from 3 separate locations of the recovered airplane wreckage, described by the FBI as a piece of canvas-like material and 2 pieces of a floor panel. These samples were submitted to the FBI's laboratory in Washington, D.C. So the idea that the government was behind it, and then the FBI being the investigatory body, people don't see a conflict of interest there?
No.
I mean, seriously. They're just investigating themselves and doing everything they can to prevent anybody else from investigating them. They really don't, they shut down another governmental organization because it had some non-governmental employees that might have access to stuff that could make prosecutorial stuff difficult. I mean, are you serious right now? I can't say it enough. There's no family members or anything out there that are like, can you imagine how much more powerful my video would be if I was sitting here claiming that, my older brother or, I mean, this I was fucking, what, 17, 18 at the time. 17. I could easily have a brother, a cousin, something that was in that craft, and I taught, I'm showing pictures and crying all the time. And can you imagine how much more powerful my shit would be? Plus, I wouldn't be talking about the Jays all the time.
Right?
So, I would probably be allowed to have a pretty decent channel. I mean, you would think. Those kinds of things, they do pretty well. Well, you would think they would, but they just don't exist because I don't see those.
Right. You're totally on his head. He's gonna get pissed in a minute.
These samples were submitted to the FBI, which determined that one sample contained traces of... Wow, say that one.
Where? Nitroglycerin?
No.
Cyclotrimethylene. Trinitramine. Wow.
You know what we do is we make it super fucking difficult to say. That way people feel stupid when they try talking about it. So then they don't talk about it. Seriously. It is cyclotrimethylene trinitramine. Cyclotrimethylene trinitramine. And its acronym is RDX.
Well, that makes sense.
Cyclotrimethylene trinitramine, all one word, mind you, is RDX. That I get that. Don't you get that? I get that. The R, the D, and the X. There's not even an X in that word. Or a D. There's R's. But towards the end. That's really interesting. Another nitroglycerin, and the third a combination of RDX and that's cyclomethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrimethyltrim orthorethyltol trenate, pent-N. See that one at least? Again, pent, it makes sense. These findings received much media attention. Oh yeah, they did. I'm sure they received much media attention. You remember all the media attention surrounding this? Do you even remember this at all? TWA Flight 800.
No. Don't.
Where it was basically that the military accidentally, they were doing a training exercise or whatever and accidentally shot down a passenger airline. It's sort of like the prevailing, that's not that bad kind of theory, you know? Instead of it was totally on purpose and whatever. But the fact that it's not a national holiday or National Day of Memorial, you know, or even recognized as far as, hey, it happened in 96. So, you know, the 20-year anniversary, that didn't matter. The fucking, none of it. You know, I say it all the time. None of you know the date of the Oklahoma City explosion. And that is the largest terrorist attack that was the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil prior to 9/11. And to this day, the largest homegrown terrorist attack, domestic terrorist attack in the United States history. That took place on April 19th, 1995, 4/19, not 4/20. Can't fuck with Hitler's birthday. Don't you think it's pretty amazing how they got us to celebrate Hitler's birthday without getting us to celebrate Hitler's birthday? You know? If you're any bit of a stoner or anything like that, you're like, 420, yeah, 420. And people are like, do you know what 420 is? And they're like, whoa, man, I heard it was like, that's what cops used to call in when they had a weed thing. They would say, I got a 420. Oh, I heard it's because weed has 420 active chemicals in it that, and so that's what. Isn't it crazy how it also just happens to be Hitler's birthday? They just happen to get us to celebrate a day, memorialize a day like that. Sure, I'm just a crazy guy. Don't worry about it. No, it's not. In addition, the backs of several damaged passenger seats were observed bearing an unknown red-brown shaded substance. According to the seat manufacturer, the locations and appearance of the substance were consistent with adhesive used in the construction of the seats, and additional laboratory testing by NASA identified the substances as consistent with adhesives. That makes sense. Yeah, adhesives. Further examination of the airplane structure, seats, and other interior components found no damage typically associated with a high-energy explosion of a bomb or missile warhead, severe pitting, cratering, pedaling, or hot gas washing. This included the pieces on which trace amounts of explosives were found. Of the 5% of the fuselage that was not recovered, none of the missing areas was large enough to have covered all of the damage that would have been caused by the detonation of a bomb or a missile. The fact that there was some explosive found on the plane, shouldn't that be enough? None of the victims' remains showed any evidence of injuries that could have been caused by high-energy explosives. The NTSB considered the possibility that the explosive residue was the result of contamination from the aircraft's use in transporting troops during the Gulf War in 1991, or its use in the dog training explosive detection exercise about 1 month before the accident. Oh, that must be it then. Testing conducted by the FAA's Technical Center indicated that residues of the type of explosives found on the wreckage would dissipate completely after 2 days of immersion in seawater. Nearly all recovered wreckage was immersed longer than 2 days. The NTSB concluded that it was quite possible that the explosive residue detected was transferred from military ships, ground vehicles, or the clothing and boots of military personnel onto the wreckage during or after the recovery operation, and that the residue was not present when the aircraft crashed into the water. Gotcha. Although it was unable to determine the exact source of the trace amounts of explosive residue found in the wreckage, the lack of any other corroborating evidence associated with a high-energy explosion led the NTSB to conclude that the in-flight breakup of TWA Flight 800 was not initiated by a bomb or missile strike. To evaluate the sequence of structural breakup of the airplane, the NTSB formed the sequencing unit, or the sequencing group, which examined individual pieces of the recovered structure, two-dimensional reconstructions or layouts of sections of the airplane, and various sized three-dimensional reconstructions of portions of the aircraft. Again, what's interesting is how none of this was done for 9/11. And when I was talking about San Bernardino, the one thing that doesn't ever get talked about when we talk about these kinds of things is who were the people that were killed. Like, were any of these people important in some regard? San Bernardino being one of those really, really crazy ones where you just almost. You're not gonna play shoot 'em up with me? In addition, the locations of pieces of wreckage at the time of recovery and differences in fire effects on pieces that are normally adjacent to each other were evaluated. The sequencing group concluded that the first event in the breakup sequence was a fracture in the wing section, center section of the aircraft caused by an overpressure event in the center wing fuel tank. An overpressure event was defined as a rapid increase in pressure resulting in failure of the structure of the CWT. Because no evidence was found that an explosive device detonated in this or any other area of the airplane, the overpressure event could have only been caused by a fuel-air explosion in the CWT. There were 50 U.S. gallons of fuel in the CWT of TWA Flight 800. 50 gallons of fuel, that doesn't seem like very much. Testing recreating the flight conditions showed the combination of liquid fuel and fuel air vapor to be flammable. The major reason for the flammability of the air vapor in CWT of the 747 was the large amount of heat generated and transferred to the CWT by air cooling packs located directly below the tank. With the CWT temperature raised to a sufficient level, a single ignition source could cause an explosion. So this shit's never ever happened before or since. But this is what happened. When you talk about these sort of structural failures in this kind of capacity, and you're saying, oh, well, it just has to be this. That's the only thing it could be. Isn't that because you've seen this a bunch of times and you know that? Like, this isn't viable evidence. Beef, what's happening? Computer modeling and scale model testing were used to predict and demonstrate how an explosion would progress in a 747 CWT. During this time, quenching was identified as an issue, a phenomenon in which the explosion would extinguish itself as it passed through the complex structure of the CWT. Because the research data regarding quenching were limited, a complete understanding of quenching behavior was not possible, and the issue of quenching remained unsolved. This is just goofy. So where did the flare come from? That came up from the ocean, that hit the ocean. Where did that come from on the ocean? That hit the plane. Yeah, I mean, that's the, that's going to be the part that gets ignored. Yeah, I'm not going to say for the 85th time that I'm reading Wikipedia. I haven't said that I'm reading Wikipedia, the source they want us to read. I haven't said that 100 fucking times, have I? I don't always use the same source for. Oh, that's the problem.
Now you've said it 100, maybe they heard it.
I only use the same source for consistency every time, but hey, I'm hiding my sources. So fucking stupid. The desperation it takes to go that route, because you can't say anything else. To better determine whether a fuel air vapor explosion in the CWT would generate sufficient pressure to break apart the fuel tank and lead to the destruction of the airplane, tests were conducted in July and August 1997 using a retired Air France 747 at Burthington Thorpe Airfield, England. These tests simulated an air fuel explosion in the CWT by igniting a propane air mixture, which failed the tank structure from overpressure. Okay, but that's not what happened. So when you're saying you're simulating what happened, you're not. Because you can't simulate that, the initial spark, the initial thing. You have to provide the explosion, which creates a whole different set of results from that point. It's not the same thing. That's not scientifically sound. I love, what am I so, because I'm angry. Why are you so angry? This is the same person that just said I never tell my sources. And now I'm angry. Gotcha. Well, I'm definitely angry at the whole J control scheme, J pedo stuff, J genocide, J all that. But your stupid trolling, I love it, man. It makes my job so much easier. Okay. While the NTSB acknowledged that the test conditions at Burlington Thorpe were not fully comparable to the conditions that existed on TWA Flight 800, previous fuel explosions in the CWTs of commercial airliners such as those of Aviacia Flight 230 and Philippine Airlines Flight 143 confirmed that a CWT explosion could break apart the fuel tank and lead to the destruction of an airplane. Ultimately, like they're just grasping at whatever straws they can fucking find. Well, no, it could be because something similar sort of might kind of sort of it like kind of happened, sort of happened, kind of like over there. Yeah, that happened. That kind of like sort of. Ultimately, based on the accident airplane's breakup sequence, wreckage damage characteristics, scientific tests and research on fuel tank explosions, and the conditions of the CWT at the time of the accident, and analysis of witness information. The NTSB concluded that the TWA Flight 800 in-flight breakup was initiated by a fuel air explosion in the CWT. Just not all of it. I'm not even gonna. Why would I bother? Oh, this is the animation. This is part of the animation. Mama had a baby and its head popped off. That's so terrible, man. It's so terrible that this happens to people. But again, there's just no. There's nothing about the fucking missile. Current locations, debris fields, fire damage, and soot deposits on the recovered wreckage indicated. I mean, again, it exploded. So how do you know that certain damage was because of explosive residue and certain fire damage is because of the explosion fire? Fire damage and soot deposits on the recovered wreckage indicated that some of the areas of fire existed on the plane as it continued in crippled flight after the loss of the forward fuselage. After about 34 seconds, based on information from witness documents, the outer portions of both the right and left wings failed. Shortly after, the left wing separated from what remained of the main fuselage, which resulted in further development of the fuel-fed fireballs as pieces of wreckage fell into the ocean. I thought it exploded and fell down. No one talked about that broad didn't talk about how the thing kept flying. 34 seconds of continued flight after it explodes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. I mean, that's fucking long, right? That's long. That's a long way, long time. No, that's continued flight. After about 34 seconds, it exploded, and then for 34 seconds later, what? That's not what. So they're saying that initially it exploded and the front part fell off, and then the rest of the plane kept flying, and then that broke up and fell out. 34 seconds. 34 seconds. That's a long fucking time, right? Wow, that's crazy. Shortly after the left wing separated from which remained of the fuselage, which resulted in further. Oh, we already know. Only the FAA radar facility in North Truro, Massachusetts, using specialized processing software from the United States Air Force 84th Radar Evaluation Squadron, was capable of estimating the altitude of TWA 800 after it lost power due to the CWT explosion. I mean, that's just, what a horrible way to die. Because of accuracy limitations, these radar data could not.
What?
Gotcha, bud. Gotcha. It's on. Could not be determined whether the aircraft climbed after the nose separated. Instead, so again, now they're saying the nose fell off and they can't tell whether it climbed or not. It continued climbing after the nose separated. Go do the 34 seconds thing again. I'm not doing it. That was a long fucking time. Give me time to get. Yeah. Who gives a fuck about your higher power? That's not what you're thinking about. In that scenario, if one of those scenarios, you're just going, you're not nothing. You're not thinking about, you're just dying. You're preparing to die. It's completely takes you off your fucking, it takes you by surprise. You don't know anything. You're doing, having this conversation, da 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 da, and then suddenly, boom. I mean, it's just, and then you're falling so fast, you don't even, it's dark, you don't know what's going on, you smash into the water. If you're still alive by the time you hit the water. I mean, that's even worse. I would hope I would have died in the initial explosion. All the people that died after getting yanked out and fell to the fucking water and just exploded when they hit the water. Oh, that's just so fucking horrible. That's so horrible. Because of the accuracy limitation. Instead, the NTSB conducted, Jesus Christ, a series of computer simulations to examine the flight path of the main portion of the fuselage. Hundreds of simulations were run using various combinations of possible times the nose of the TWA 800 separated. The exact time was unknown. Again, this is just what? What? You had fucking 258 witnesses that didn't see what time it took place? I mean, it just doesn't seem like it should be this janky. Different models of behavior of the crippled aircraft, the aerodynamic properties of the aircraft without its nose could only be estimated, and longitudinal radar data, the recorded radar tracks of the east-west portion of TWA Flight 800 from various sites differed. These simulations indicated that after the loss of the forward fuselage, the remainder of the aircraft continued in crippled flight, then pitched up while rolling to the left, climbing to a maximum altitude of between 15,537 and 6,078 feet. Those are exact numbers. It's between those exact numbers. From its last recorded altitude of 13,000. So, for 34 seconds, they're saying this thing continued flying upwards before it then decided to fucking get the fuck out of here. They don't know when the actual nose fell off, but they know the nose fell off, and then they just go like, what? That's just the dumbest fucking shit, man. Oh, most witness observations of a streak of light were determined by the NTSB to be consistent with the calculated flight path of TWA Flight 800 after the CWT explosion. Screenshot from NTSB animation. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Okay, so now they're saying the thing that people thought was the missile was because the nose had exploded and fallen off, and then the plane kept flying and climbed another 2,000 feet, 2 to 3,000 feet on fire before it then decided to fall. They saw that little peak. That makes so much sense. I can see how somebody could say, I saw what I thought was a flare rise up from basically down by the water's edge, and it'll go all the way up and intercept the plane that was flying, and then it exploded and fell to the water. I could totally see how somebody could be mistaken.
Of course.
Yeah. At the start of the FBI's investigation, because of the possibility that international terrorists might have been involved, assistance was required from the CIA. Well, now you know. CIA analysis, relying on sound propagation analysis, concluded that the witnesses could not be describing a missile approaching an intact aircraft, but were seeing a trail of burning fuel coming from the aircraft after the initial explosion. That's how dumb everyone is. Multiple people thought they saw a missile, and instead they were seeing a burning. I mean, the one chick says she watched it go up and then impact whatever it was behind the clouds. They're saying the initial explosion had already happened, the nose had fallen off, and now it's like leaking fuel on fire or whatever that woman is seeing rise up and make. Because they're saying that the plane, after the nose fell off, after the front fuselage fell off where the wings connect, it continued flying up for 34 seconds. That's what I was counting out, the 34 seconds.
That's a really long time. And how is it steering without the fuselage, which holds the captain and the steering?
Well, no, the front had blown off and it just continued gliding up.
Up, yeah, because that's
for 3,000 feet, 34 seconds.
That defies physics.
While leaking out fuel that was on fire that people thought was a missile coming up to hit it. This is after
the fuel was on fire. That would cause lift. The burning of the fuel pushing up against the plane would cause lift.
No, it wouldn't. No, it fucking wouldn't. It absolutely would not. The idea that what they're saying people thought was a missile was actually some leaking fuel that was on fire. That's what they're saying that the plane had already exploded. The initial explosion had happened and the front fuselage fell off.
Right.
And then it continued flying up for another 3,000 feet while on fire. And that's what people, and the thing that people thought was a missile that they had seen fly up from the water and go intercept it before the explosion. They apparently missed the initial explosion when the fuselage fell off.
Maybe it was something coming off. They thought it was going up and it was going down.
I could see how you could do that. Like what? What?
It went down.
This is going, right, and now it's going to go up.
Yeah. I just saw it go up. It was in your hand.
We have to be so fucking dumb. Everybody saw the single missile before they exploded. Exactly. And then the destroyer moving fast away. Exactly. But, like, that's just it. The vessels that were supposedly only tracked by this specific special radar, they happen to be the kind of kick-ass vessels that could launch a missile. How how you could, like, can you imagine if you were one of the people interviewed and you were like, they said, what? No, I saw a missile. No, what? That it was gas leaking that was on fire? That's what they're saying I saw. Okay. No, that was a missile. It was like, it flew up. What the fuck? Like, this is the craziest fucking shit. It's just so insultingly stupid. And then, of course, all of those eyewitness testimonies, well, the FBI got them, and then they provided us the summaries for what the people had to say. Even the summaries. Can you imagine what the actual witness accounts were? If the summaries talk about, if the summaries had to acknowledge that people saw something flying up and they said a flare or whatever it was. Imagine what it actually was. Imagine what she actually said.
Well, you don't know because there was no verbatim account taken, just a summary.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
What does the verbatim account say? If it's so,
They didn't write it down.
if it was so descriptive or that they had to at least acknowledge that the person saw something, that means the verbatim account is like really bad because they had to acknowledge something. But who are all those people? The identities were withheld. And then they were finally released 2 years later, or a year and a half later. But because it had been so long, they were like, we don't need to interview those. They're fucking, their testimonies. You know, we'll just go with the original testimonies that the FBI gave us. We don't need to re-interview these people. We'll just go with those fucking summaries the FBI gave us. How am I the only one that thinks this is fucking weird? And James Dixon, apparently. How is this? How does this make sense to anyone? Like, and see, this is where, again, you want to draw lines. You want to be like the people that tell you this story and tell you you have to believe this story. If you don't believe this story, you are not patriotic. You are not a good American. You are all those negative conspiracy theorists. You're all those things that you call me. Mm-hmm. You believe this narrative that they give you because you have to. Mm-hmm. And yet you don't. You say, no, this one's not true. But then you're going to also believe the same people that tell you this, the same people that give you Trump. They're the same people that give you the Israel is the victim perspective. Mm-hmm. They're the same people that give you your Bible. They're the same people that give you your medicines. They're the same people that give you your food. They're the same people that give you your history and your space and all that other shit. And you're going to say, okay, well, this piece isn't true, but all the rest of the stuff they tell, that stuff's true. I know just as much about this one as I do all the other stuff. Like, again, you have no idea. You're just, you know what's in your house. You know what's in your life. And depending on how many people live there, you know a percentage of what's going on in your house. I don't sit here and pretend to think I know everything that goes on with my wife or in her head or who she's even texting or what. You know, I don't know that shit. I don't care to.
You want to know?
Oh.
It says your ex sent you a text. Baby, I'm in jail. Reply with 3 to 5 words. I put me no speaker. That's what I'm typing.
Whatever. I mean, again, it's just my wife's always. I don't know what's. The only thing I know is what I know, my own personal existence, and then what they tell me.
That's what happened just at that moment.
Right.
That's all.
What they tell me, and when I look at what they tell me, every single time I look, it's the same fucking reaction. There's a reason why I don't do the conspiracy theory sort of thing. There's a reason why I read what they want me to read. Because honestly, I'm 100% confident that no matter what it is, it's going to be bullshit. They're going to come at me with some incredible bullshit. And I'm supposed to I'm supposed to not be as smart as I am. And I just don't know how to do that. You know? I don't get it. Anyway, let's keep going. At the start of the FBI's investigation, CIA analysis. This conclusion was reached after calculating how long the sound of the initial explosion took to reach the witnesses, and using that to correlate the witness observations with the accident sequence. In all cases, the witnesses could not be describing a missile approaching an intact aircraft, as the plane had already exploded before their observations began. That's it. That's what they go with. All of those people didn't notice the initial explosion and then thought they saw a missile, something going up, when it was actually something coming down while the rest of the plane continued flying.
My friend just sent this from the UP. She's at Martin Lake.
Whoa.
She said, I had a lake view.
That's scary. I would be worried that my window's going to break.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, this is what they're saying, that every single person that thought they saw a missile.
That's not what you saw at all. What you saw was it's hypnosis.
The plane had already exploded.
It's hypnosis.
You didn't notice the plane exploding.
It is hypnosis.
You were sitting out there, sipping your little thing on your thing, watching the sunset, whatever. A plane explodes. You don't notice it. You then go, hey, look. There's some sort of weird thing flying up from the water, going up into the clouds. I'm looking right at it. Wow, is there a boat? No? Huh. Boom! Wow, there's a huge fireball now, and now it's falling down to the ground. You didn't see the initial explosion, though. You saw the second. I mean, this is just... It's so insultingly stupid, but as James Dixon said... When was the last time you heard somebody talk about this? I'm the first person you've probably ever heard talk about this. My wife doesn't remember it. She's never heard anything about it.
I mean, I'm sure I heard about it, but I've heard about it so much, it's hard to remember it all.
This is the second deadliest aviation accident in the history of the United States. At that time, third deadliest now. Where I would assume they're talking about 9/11 number one. But this is they can just put whatever the fuck they want. The 15 people that are gonna happen to search this shit out, the dumbass that might be reading about it on his YouTube's got 8 people watching anyway. Now. We don't get those hundreds and 500 viewers anymore. Remember when we were getting 500 viewers? Mm-hmm. I must be doing something differently. As the investigation progressed, the NTSB decided to form a witness group to more fully address the accounts of witnesses. From November 96 through April 97, this group reviewed summaries. As soon as you hear this part, it's just like, blah, 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 it comes out afterward. Who gives a fuck? They reviewed summaries of witness accounts on loan from the FBI with personal information redacted, and conducted interviews with crew members from a New York Air National Guard HH-60 helicopter and C-130 airplane, as well as a U.S. Navy P-3 airplane that was flying in the vicinity of TWA 800 at the time of the incident. Accident. Sorry, it's the accident. I say incident because it doesn't seem like it was an accident. Targeted. I love how the TV does that. Again, it's you know I realize that I'm contributing to the distraction by doing that, and that we really should be talking about what Israel's doing right now and genocide and all that stuff. But you know, my wife always says, like, it took me forever to get here. It took me a long time before I would accept what I believe. And I can't just expect people to do it, to accept things. You know? There's going to be a process to it. And so, you know, in order to help you through this and help you, so you don't have to look for it. You know, I had to look for it. You don't have to look for it. I've already found it. I encourage you to go watch it or go figure it out or listen to me read about it, whatever it may be. And if I'm wrong, then you can just address it this way or that way. Like, this is how we get better. I don't expect people to just listen to what I'm saying because I'm saying it. I want you to help me find the holes in the narrative, whether I'm, you know, providing the narrative or whoever's providing the narrative. We need to find the holes. So if there's something I'm getting wrong here, I mean, I don't know how I could necessarily be getting anything wrong. I'm reading what you're supposed to know. This isn't mine. This isn't the this is history. This is an opinion. In February 1998, the FBI, having closed its active investigation, agreed to fully release the witness summaries to the NTSB. With access to these documents no longer controlled by the FBI, the NTSB formed a second witness group to review the documents. Because of the time that had elapsed, about 21 months, not even 2 years. 21 months isn't shit. You could barely have 2 kids in that time before the NTSB received information about the identity of the witnesses. The witness group chose not to re-interview the witnesses, but instead to rely on the original summaries of the witness statements written by the FBI agents as the best available evidence of the observations initially reported by the witnesses. That just makes no fucking sense. Literally none. That doesn't. Why would they fight for it? All this time passes. They finally get access to it, and then they go, "Oh, okay, now we have access to it. Fuck it, let's not do it." You know, 21 months is far too. We don't want to put all those people through all that trauma of having to say, "Hey, what did you see?" I'm sure a lot of those people wanted to be re-interviewed. That just doesn't make any fucking sense. Any fucking sense. Despite the 2.5 years that had elapsed since the accident, the witness group did interview the captain of the... Now it's 2.5 years. The captain of East Winds Airlines Flight 507, who was the first to report the explosion of TWA Flight 800 because of his vantage point and experience as an airline pilot. A frame from the NTSB's animation depicting how the noseless plane climbed erratically before descending into the ocean. That is fucking stupid. To say that this is what happened Never happened before in the history of anything. Can't duplicate it in any fucking way. Yet somehow it was flying straight. The nose fell off, which then made the plane fly up like that. Why would that fucking happen? The NTSB's review of the released witness documents determined that they contained 736 witness accounts, of which 258 were characterized as streak of light witnesses, with an object moving in the sky, voraciously described as a point of light, firework, or flare, a shooting star, or something similar. 258 people? Wait, this is different than what they said earlier. Now there are 736 witness accounts, and 258 saw 258 fucking people saw something that looked like a streak of light. Are we fucking serious, sweetheart? It's actually that there were 736 witness accounts, and 258 saw a streak of light. Yeah. No, I'm saying these 258 of the 736 people saw something fly up towards the plane.
I mean, that's a lot of people who didn't know. That's not what I'm saying. But out of that many witnesses, it seems like a small percentage saw the same thing. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's like 25%.
What did the other people say they saw?
I don't know. 736 people witnessing it is a lot of people, though.
Yeah, but it's not the majority.
No, and you know, that's people that noticed the flash, noticed something, and then saw. So a lot of, I would assume a lot of those people were like the 258 were the people that were looking in that direction as it happened. The other people saw, you know, the flash and then looked.
Right.
The NTSB witness group concluded that the streak of light reported by witnesses must have been the actual airplane during some stage of its flight before the fireball developed, noting that most of the 258 streak of light accounts were generally consistent with the calculated flight path of the accident airplane after the CWT explosion. That is so stupid. 38 witnesses described a streak of light that ascended vertically, or nearly so, and these accounts, quote, seem to be inconsistent with the accident airplane's flight path. In addition, 18 witnesses reported seeing a streak of light that originated at the surface or the horizon, which did not appear to be consistent with the airplane's calculated flight path, and other known aspects of the accident sequence. So they just they're just lying. All of those attention-seeking nobodies, right? Regarding these differing accounts, the NTSB noted that based on their experience in previous investigations, witness reports are often inconsistent with the known facts or with other witnesses' reports of the same events. Right. They haven't been contaminated yet. And even then, because of that, you would think even more so you would want to interview all of those people and not just rely on the summaries that you're given. Seems like that's even more of a reason to conduct, to re-interview all of those people just 21 months later. The interviews conducted by the FBI focused on the possibility of a missile attack, suggested interview questions given to FBI agents such as where was the sun in relation to the aircraft and the missile launch point, and how long did the missile fly, could have biased interviewees' responses in some cases. So they're saying because the FBI asked the question, that made people go, oh, yeah, that's probably it. The NTSB concluded that given the large number of witnesses in the case, they did not expect all of the documented witness observations to be consistent with one another and did not view these apparently anomalous witness reports as persuasive evidence that some witnesses might have observed a missile. That just doesn't make any sense. You know, I'm not an investigator. I'm a nobody. You know, I got 8 viewers, right? And I hear this and I don't know how the smarter than, better than people out there, you know, the bosses, the string pullers, how they hear these same things and go, yeah, no, I mean, how that makes total sense, right? All those people were just fucking mistaken and shit. After missile visibility tests were conducted in April 2000 at Egan Air Force Base, Fort Walton Beach, the NTSB determined that if witnesses had observed a missile attack, they would have seen a light from the burning missile motor ascending very rapidly and steeply for about 8 seconds, the light disappearing for up to 7 seconds. Upon the missile striking the aircraft and igniting the CWT, another light moving considerably more slowly and more laterally than the first for about 30 seconds. 34 seconds? Number 4, the light descending while simultaneously developing into a fireball falling toward the ocean. None of the witness documents describe such a scenario. Yeah, they did. And again, this idea that it flew for another 34 seconds, like, am I? The one woman said she saw the light flying upwards. It then disappeared for a few seconds. Then there was there was an explosion. And the thing flew for another 34 seconds, apparently. I mean, what are we fucking talking about? Because of their unique vantage points or the level of precision and detail provided in their accounts, 5 witness accounts generated special interest. The pilot of Eastwind Airline Flight 507, the crew members in the H-860 helicopter, a streak of light witness aboard U.S. Airways Flight 217, a land witness on the Beach Lane Bridge in West Hampton Beach, New York, and a witness on a boat near Great Gun Beach. I mean, you have like multiple high clearance people, right?
What the hell are you doing here?
Advocates of a missile attack scenario asserted that some of these witnesses observed a missile. Analysis demonstrated that the observations were not consistent with a missile attack on TWA 800, but instead were consistent with these witnesses having observed part of the in-flight fire and breakup sequence of the CWT explosion. That is just so stupid. That is so insultingly stupid. The NTSB concluded the witness observations of a streak of light were not related to a missile, and that the streak of light reported by most of these witnesses was burning fuel from the accident airplane in crippled flight during some portion of the post-explosion pre-impact breakup sequence. The NTSB further concluded the witnesses' observations of one or more fireballs were of the airplane's burning wreckage falling towards the ocean. Wait, I thought. Yeah. Number 4, a light descending which simultaneously developed into a fireball falling towards the ocean. None of the witness documents describe such a scenario. Didn't he just literally say that? The witness observations of one or more fireballs were of the airplane airplanes burning wreckage falling toward the ocean. He said that it was on fire as it fell down. The four things that they said had to be consistent with a missile attack were absolutely part of the summaries. It wasn't even the fucking, like, the actual witness accounts. The FBI summary accounts meet all four of the criteria. Literally. Okay. Let me just jump back up to the top real quick. So I'm gonna read. Oh shit. I want to read the. Okay, so this is the original. This is the witness interview. Remember, I'm going to read this again. Blank was interviewed at blank, West Hampton, New York. After being advised of the identities of their interviewing agents and the nature of the interview, blank provided the following information. On the evening of July 17th, 1996, blank was at the West Hampton Yacht Squadron on an outside covered porch. Between 8:30 and 8:45 p.m., blank saw what she initially thought was a boat flare. She saw the flare when it was already at a midpoint in the sky. She was facing south, overlooking Moriches Bay and Dune Road. As blank faced south, she estimated that the flare would have been at about 11 o'clock. She did not see where the flare originated from, but thought that it was as close as the bay. The flare continued ascending for about 3 seconds, but blank took her eyes off of it as she looked for a boat in the bay, which she thought may have sent up the flare. The flare was red-orange in color with white in the middle, elongated in the shape of a baseball bat, but more squat, like a missile. Blank did not see any smoke or anything trailing the flare, but advised that she was focusing on the light. The light seemed to be moving away from her as it further south. As the flare ascended, it suddenly turned a deeper orange and got larger, but was not exactly round in shape. Blank did not hear anything at that point. Slowly, the entire body of the flare descended and became more misformed in shape. Blank described the shape as being like a pulled tooth. Blank expected the fire to descend into the bay, but lost sight of it as it descended much further south beyond Dune Road. There was a smoke trail following the fire mass as it descended downward. Okay. Does that not absolutely fit with where the fuck is it? A light from a burning missile motor ascending very rapidly and steeply for about 8 seconds. That's one. Number two, the light disappearing for up to 7 seconds. Three, upon missile striking the aircraft, igniting the CWT. Like, it has to light the CWT. The CWT has to have been lit, has to have exploded. It couldn't be anything else. Another light moving, igniting the CWT. Another light moving considerably more slowly and more laterally than at first for about 30 seconds. So she thought it would just descend straight down, but she said it kept going and out of her sight. 30 seconds. This light descending while simultaneously developing into a fireball falling toward the ocean. None of the witness documents describe such a scenario. That's literally exactly what the eyewitness testimony was. Let's jump ahead to the controversy section because I'm almost done anyway. After the accident, former Joint Chief of Staff Thomas Moorer and former White House Press Secretary Pierre Salinger, speculated that the airplane was destroyed by a missile, with a nearby U.S. Navy ship being the likely culprit. The NTSB's conclusions about the cause of the TWA 800 disaster took 4 years and 1 month to be published. The FBI's earliest investigations and interviews, later used by the NTSB, were performed under the assumption of a missile attack, a fact noted in the NTSB's final report. 6 months into the investigation, the NTSB's chairman, Jim Hall, was quoted as saying, "All three theories, a bomb, a missile, or a mechanical failure, remain." Speculation was fueled in part by early descriptions, visuals, and eyewitness accounts of the disaster that indicated a sudden explosion and trails of fire moving in an upward direction. On July 19th, 2013, the NTSB acknowledged in a press release that they received a petition for reconsideration of the investigation into the July 17th, 1996 crash of TWA Flight 800. In 2014, the NTSB declined the petition to reopen the investigation. In a press release, the NTSB stated, "After a thorough review of all the information provided by the petitioners, the NTSB denied the petition in its entirety because the evidence and analysis presented did not show the original findings were incorrect." Many internet users responded to the incident. The resulting web traffic set records for internet activity at the time. CNN's traffic quadrupled to 3.9 million views per day. The website of the New York Times had its traffic increase 1.5 million views per day, 50% higher than its previous rate. In 1996, few government websites were updated daily, but the United States Navy's crash website constantly updated and had detailed information about the salvage of the crash site. The wreckage was moved to an NTSB facility in Ashburn, Virginia, that was custom built for the purpose. The reconstructed aircraft was used to train accident investigators until it was decommissioned in 2021. On July 18, 2008, the United States Secretary of Transportation, Mary E. Peters, visited the facility to announce a final... What the fuck do I care? Final rule designed to prevent accidents caused by fuel tank explosions. The rule required airlines to pump inert gas into the tanks. Something that didn't fucking happen. Like, this isn't something that happened. So what are we talking about? The rule covered the CWT on all new passenger and cargo airliners. The passenger planes built in most of the 90s, but not on old cargo planes. NTSB at first recommended such a rule. Gives a fuck. Crashed, value jet, among other things. NTSB 30 days. In addition, it restricts... Okay. Crash at TWA 800 and that of value jet earlier in 1996 prompted Congress to pass the Aviation Disaster Family Assistance Act in 96. As part of the Federal Aviation Appropriations Bill. Among other things, the act gives NTSB, instead of the particular airline involved, responsibility for coordinating services to the family of victims of fatal aircraft accidents in the United States. In addition, it restricts lawyers and other parties from contacting the family members within 30 days of the accident. During the investigation, the NTSB and the FBI clashed with each other. The agencies lacked a detailed protocol describing which agency should take the lead when whether an event was an accident or a criminal act was initially unclear. At the time of the crash, blah blah specified that the NTSB's aviation accident investigations have priority over all other federal investigations. That's weird. The blah blah was 49 CFR 831.5 specified the NTSB's aviation accident investigations have priority over all other federal investigations. Strange then that the FBI had the ability to interfere so much, isn't it? And then that they changed the rule after this. After the TWA Flight 800 investigation, the NTSB recognized the need for better clarity. The NTSB sought and secured language to clarify the issue, which was amended to read. So this just doesn't... In In 2005, amended to read, the Attorney General, in conclusion with the chairman of the determines and notifies NTSB of the circumstances reasonably instigate the accident may be a cause for international criminal act, shall relinquish investigative priority to the FBI. So because of this, now the FBI has control when they want to. In 2005, the NTSB and FBI entered a memorandum. Oh, look, another memorandum of understanding. Wow, that's interesting. I never heard of that until recently, and now I've heard about it. And usually it only has to do with Israel, so that's kind of weird. That stated, in the immediate aftermath of a transportation accident, the NTSB is the presumptive lead investigative agency and will assume control of the accident scene. The FBI may still conduct a criminal investigation, but the NTSB investigation has priority. When investigative priority remains with the NTSB, the FBI must coordinate its investigative activities with the NTSB investigator in charge. This authority includes interviewing witnesses. The MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, states that this procedure is intended to ensure that neither the NTSB nor the FBI investigate activity unnecessarily complicates or compromises the other agency's investigation. The new statutory language in the Memorandum of Understanding have improved coordination between NTSB and FBI since the TWA Flight 800 accident. As of 2005, the NTSB and FBI personnel conduct joint exercises. Each agency can call upon the other's laboratories. Man, it's just made everything so much better.
Almost like we needed that accident for it to get better.
Heidi Snow, the fiance of Flight 800 victim Michael Bierstoff, established the Aircraft Casualty Emotional Support Services nonprofit group together with families of the victims of Pan Am Flight
Who
103.
made money on that deal? That's where your answer lies.
Well, no.
Oh,
They're just
that's big money.
that's not the answer though. That's a piece.
Sounds like a payoff to me.
It's shocking.
I mean,
And I
they're
was going to
just
talk
all
about
pawns. That's all it is. That's all these stories keep showing over and over, is that we are disposable pawns in the scheme of things, and they use us against each other for control and scare tactics, and to get what the fuck they want. That's it. That's it. It's not complicated. You know, what's complicated is trying to defeat them when they've created all of the systems that we've relied upon as tools to defeat them.
I
That's
agree.
where the difficulty lies.
I agree. And I believe me, I wish I wasn't like this. I wish I could just be like, oh, fuck all those kids that are being violated by the J pedos in Hollywood. And you know, fuck all those poor Palestinians that my news feed is being bombarded with.
I think they're just at a loss as to what they can do about it, and therefore disassociate themselves by saying, well, it's not in my house.
Right. Fuck them. You just don't like the wording, but it's the same thing.
But it's not.
It is.
Has intent.
No,
Intent,
no, it doesn't.
right?
Fuck them is like, I can't do it. Fuck it. I don't care. Whatever. Fuck it. I don't, you know.
And it's not even that they don't care. They just don't know what to do, and it's too hard.
It's going to come to you. You know,
People don't think so. We're in America, the country of the free. That shit doesn't happen. That's why we live here and not there.
But we all see it happening all around us.
In all of those places.
No, we see it happening here. We see so much fucked up shit. The fires, the safety, you know, the smart cities that are going up. Like all these things were.
Though, you're believing what you're also being fed about it all.
Yeah, but that's changing. That's the whole point. Is like there are more and more people sort of waking up to it at the very least, and we have a chance.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't have to, you know.
I'm just saying that most people, I don't think it's
I think
the
more
malicious, fuck everybody type of mentality.
No, I get it. You're just playing semantics here. I definitely don't think it's fuck it with malicious or with malicious intent. I never said that. I think most people just say fuck it. I can't do anything about it,
Don't
so
know
fuck
what
it.
to do.
Right.
How can I do anything about that? I can barely feed my family right now.
I get it. And that's part of it. The reason why that's happening is because you can barely feed your family.
And to propose to make it harder before you can get it to get better is a big ask.
It really doesn't have to get harder.
It would.
It doesn't have to. It doesn't. If we start, you know,
It would take a lot of prep work.
it would take a lot of honesty, you know. I mean, it's we just have to be honest. We have to, you know. Are you saying that you're, you know, like especially the whole send them to Israel thing? Well, like this way, you know, you guys can just be the people that you need to be. Like, why wouldn't you want that? It's paradise. You get to be the people you want to be. You know, there's no, you don't have to deal because you're the most persecuted people in the United States.
The poor Jews.
Yeah, no.
Poor forgotten.
So we'll get you there. You know, you're not going to be like, you're too proud to continue to take handouts. You know,
Where they live, they would have nowhere to go.
super intelligent, super successful. You'll probably just like take over some other shit. So we're going to let you go do what you want to do. We're no longer going to accommodate your cult. How about that? How about you show me how it's not a cult, and then we can talk.
Well, then you're going to get the semantics argument. Well, so is, you know, Roman Catholic, and so
exactly.
Is, you know.
Absolutely, and we'll get there. We will get there, but we'll get there, and I actually absolutely plan on addressing that along the way. But we're talking about steps. Everything takes steps. So instead of saying how do I tackle this huge step first and foremost, we'll get there. It's small piece. You know, I'm not arrogant here. I don't think we can fix this thing overnight. But we do these small pieces and we show people how, you know, we have to show people truth. And I realize, like, I don't experience what it's like to be down in Texas and the Bible Belt and how insane those people are.
Mom, do the dogs have their TREAT?
Yes, they did. They also had an extra one. That's why Broly was in his crate.
Hey, Stooge.
He wants
Hey!
attention.
Here.
He wants
Do this.
to
Get this done.
love.
Get that done so when I'm done we can play.
I'm already in the middle of one, Dad.
Okay, well, I'll be right down.
I have to do my thing first, and then
You do your thing, and I'll be down to do my thing.
I have 3 times damage, Dad.
That's because you're a badass.
He is badass.
Yeah, I'm going to just go do that because that's so much better than this. I appreciate all you for being here for sure. I hope people learned something today. And
Speaking of badasses.
go get your free download. www.the-bilderberg.group.com. It's free download, free music. Go enjoy it. It's good for you. Puts hair in your chest. There's going to be a link to Hollywoodism, as there always is, because that's the thing. You have to go watch Hollywoodism. You should go look up Team Jorge, Jorge, Team Jorge, The Samson Option, Operation Cast Thy Bread. You should go look those things up. Blow your fucking mind. And I'm also going to put a link to one of our songs from Facebook so you can see the videos and you can, you know, if I'm not live here, I'm live there kind of thing, you know. So everybody have a great fucking day, and you pedophiles, kill yourself.